I
That
was gonna ask,
shows you how.
after this, can you mind showing your chart that shows you what you see as the floor? That's a very good chart.
Okay, I'll do that. But first, this is another way of doing the floor. It's MVT price. MVT price is looking at the essentially the volume moving between investors, and it's investment velocity. How much of the money supply is moving each day? The faster that moves, the more investment interest there is. Because when coins are moving between different investors, um, that's investors coming in. You know, old investors selling in, and new investors coming in. It's very healthy. So I'll zoom that out, and you'll see that it really does capture a lot of the, you know, like as we're in a bear market, investment velocity dropped way down. Price was well overvalued over NVT velocity, and you see that it's really creating a floor here, and in this part of the bull. This is actually a bull market, even though people thought it was a bear market. Um, and then we had, you know, a very, you know, the white swan event, which pierced it, recovered, and this was actually where I was using this model to say we're going to decouple from stocks. I think everyone's saying, oh, it's just a failed safe haven, and I said this, like I could see this floor coming up and nothing, coming up and squeezing, and at this point stocks crashed and Bitcoin bounced because the floor, supported by these fundamental investors buying and holding, supported that, and you can see this floor coming up and up and up at it. It bounced it even with that amount of air under it, and we're in that zone now. And if you want to see the floor, I'll just zoom into the newsletter and see that there. This is just a few days ago. The floor doesn't move much once we're in a correction. It moves up with the price as investments coming in, and then it stays flat as the price is coming down. That's the general behavior. So the floor price is 39,000, 38.8 as of today. It's gone sideways, and this thing's coming into it. We never touched it there, even though we did touch it on the hourly. This is a daily close model, so you can, you know, you might get a wick below it, but this model is not looking at those short time frames. Yeah. Do you want to
Hey,
jump
Willy,
in?
since you touched on it, do you not see much of a correlation between Bitcoin and the traditional stock market, S&P or Nasdaq? Because Bitcoin has been pulling back over the last, you know, few weeks, and so, or over last week, and so has the stock market as well. I still see correlation there, at least directionally, not
Yeah,
magic.
you'll see that correlation if you're trading these you know, hourly candles intraday. If you're trading maybe week to week, month to month, I think those correlations are weaker. And so I'm not looking at anything within a day or candle by candle, within hours. But certainly that correlation is quite high in the shorter time frames. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
slightly. I personally see a correlation on the larger time frames. I mean, Bitcoin made a new all-time high along with the stock market once again. I still think there's a big correlation there. The good news is, based on how much money America is printing and based on how they don't want anyone to run a business, expect the stock market to keep going up, because just like corporations are buying into Bitcoin as a safe haven, many corporations and other people are buying into the stock market as a safe haven, because your other option is government debt. And you have to be a complete idiot to buy into government debt. So everyone is buying up the stock market, and that's why it's rising.
yeah, I think that's valid too, because it's, you know, one of these stores of value and everyone's pouring money in, and I think that correlation will increase if this corporate treasury buying business starts to really take off. I mean, the S&P 500 will probably be represented in, you know, a certain percentage of it will be Bitcoin in their treasuries that's being valued into it. So I could see that, the correlation from that as well. But yeah, like in this day and age, stocks, real estate, everything is just store of value right now is fiat's being printed to the hilt. So yeah, I'll just.
All right. Well, let's go over. If you want to go over to your website, which you haven't shown yet, and let's take a look at some of the old charts we used to look at, like the minor difficulty ribbon and some of the other stuff.
Yeah, okay. I'll just want to throw one last one because I think it's quite important, which is net entity growth. Okay, so I just want to show you this kind of crazy spike up here. You should ignore the latest bit of the spike. I think.
Wait, what is that yellow? What's the yellow line?
It's just a very
Entities
exciting.
net growth. Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, entities means ghosts. No, it means participants. So entities is you or a hedge fund or a corporate treasury. So we're counting clusters of wallets that look like a person or a corporate entity. And then we're seeing how many are coming into the network, because you say, well, there's a bunch of wallets here that belong to one person that just appeared. And then you're subtracting people who have left, sold out of the Bitcoin disgusted and never coming back, and their wallets are zero. And you take the difference, and that's the net entity growth. So this is the rate of on-chain wallet users coming onto the network. And so see this zone here. So we just had, we're pretty much in the, I'll read it out. It's like 12, roughly 7.5 to 12.5 thousand, mainly 7.5 thousand new users coming onto Bitcoin per day as seen by the blockchain. Okay, and then we had this jump at this point to 25,000 users per day.
Wait, I'm sorry. What are the? I'm sorry, Willie. What are the units of the entities? Is this the number of entities, or is that the amount of value? Is it it's the number of entities? So it's regardless of how much Bitcoin they hold.
Regardless, this is counting users. Okay, I would rename this chart to net user growth of the network. Would that help?
Okay.
Net user growth. So how many users are coming onto Bitcoin?
Is there a way to, like volume adjust this chart by the amount of value in these wallets? Because I think that would be very interesting as well.
That's a different chart. Okay, that's like we're looking at now. Coins moving.
Right. But I'm just okay.
Which is essentially what MVT is in volume. So if you want to see volume, that's like MVT. We can also look at the value held by different size of wallets, that sort of thing. You might look at realized cap, which we can go into. But this is this chart is more like this chart. This is like fundamentally, I'm not interested in capital coming in. I'm interested in the rate in which users are adopting Bitcoin. So this chart here is essentially the adoption S-curve of Bitcoin. This is the amount of users in the world using the internet, right? And as of January this year, we crossed the 1997 number, which was 120 million total users, right? So essentially, how many more new users coming is determining the steepness of this line, right? And so from that, we can go, oh, look, in 4 years, we're going to have 1 billion users. And beyond that, probably in the following 2 years.
Oh, Willie, I'm sorry. This chart is really misleading. You should like alter the color after Jan 2021, because I thought that the whole green thing is the current thing.
So this is the amount of users that, this is the estimated number of users that use Bitcoin, meaning they hodl Bitcoin.
Right. No, but I mean, like, but at the point, like, it's the same solid line going into the future. You may want to alter the color or brightness of that line after Jan 2021 to avoid
no, it's
confusion.
a certain thing, so I don't want to lighten it up. It's absolutely going to happen. Okay, so then, but
I'm like, holy shit, we're almost where the internet is.
Well, you got to look at the calendar, you know. Look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is, you know, and this does say the next 4 years. I mean, I'm zapping through this very quickly, but like, if I slow it down, this is 4 years in the future, 1 billion users, and then probably another 2 years after that, 2 billion users, and probably within the next, you can say from that, in the next 6 years, Bitcoin wins. Like it becomes a major, unstoppable, like, well, it's like what? When you hit something like 16% of the population of an adoption, that's when you hit the mainstream, and the rest is just it's just rockets. So um, so we're looking more like that. We're not looking at the capital, right? Or in this case, I don't really care about this, because what I'm going to say right now, all I wanted to say with this is, hello, retail has arrived. This is not all the corporations in the US coming in at 20,000 new users per day, or hedge funds or high net worth millionaires coming in. This is moms and pops and brothers and sisters and the taxi driver coming in, and they're buying in, which, you know, retail came in the last cycle around here, around the, like, what is that? That's Octoberish, around Octoberish of 2016. And that changes the whole dynamic of the market, because now we've got three types of players. We've got institutions, which is, you know, corporates and very large funds, and you've got high net worth individuals who came in also. But now we've got moms and pops taking small slugs at this, taking small bites of it, and they also treat their coins differently. They don't actually. Very few of them actually store on-chain wallets. They store more likely on Coinbase or the exchanges. So yeah, just saying that that's happened, so we're going to be aware of that. They're more likely to FOMO and FUD into this cycle. So they'll just change some of the ways price will behave moving forward in subtle ways. The end, I think that's it. Oh, this peak, by the way, is over exaggerated just on technicalities, but I won't go into it.
All right, let's go over to your website. Let's take a look at a couple of old charts that you used to show on this channel all the time.
Sure, there we go. Here we go. Which one would you like? Let's see. Let's go to MVT ratio, the golden oldie. This is like the first, I think this is one of the first signaling indicators we ever saw on Bitcoin. Again, I think someone in the chat room asked, what is NVT? Is network value to transaction ratio. So essentially, this is Bitcoin's price earnings ratio. In a company, you have share price, and then you do a ratio to how much money they're earning. We don't have earnings because it's not a company, but we do have investors. It's an investment network. So we look at how much velocity is moving between these investors, how much the money supply is churning between investors. That's your earnings. And you look at the valuation, which is the market cap, and you do the ratio. And so when it's high, it's overvalued. When it's low, it's undervalued. And so we're in this still very strong zone here. We're in the lower bounds, close to the green line, which is a buy. This is a very slow moving indicator. It swings over the, you know, each of these red lines is a macro cycle. Essentially, that's a halving cycle. So last 4 years. So yep, still very healthy. Still, my reckonings we're midway into the bull market right now. In the RV, so this one's showing a lot more heatedness. This is the ratio of the market cap to essentially. Okay, can you still hear me?
I hear you. It's not as good as before. You're cutting out a little bit.
Okay, my headset just flicked on and off, but I think I'll assume you can hear me. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're quite high on the overheat, but certainly if I do turn on the Z, which sort of evens out things between cycles, we're in this zone here. Market tops are up here. We're needing to move a little bit higher. We just pulled back down on this correction. So, you know, a lot of people are thinking we might get a double top like we saw in 2013. Maybe that's the case. Because I don't think it's likely that we're going to stop until December. Yet to see, and certainly with the amount of money coming in and the type of money that's coming in, they're not making quick decisions. They're you know, corporations. I think Michael Saylor said 6 to 9 months before they make, from the time they push the go button or look at it till the time that they have got all the approvals inside the company to make it work. So that puts us into the third or fourth quarter of this year before they start moving. So we're going to have a lot of bullish action from that if that is the case. And you know, my thinking is we'll probably in that zone see the first announcements of sovereign wealth funds starting to deploy into Bitcoin as well. So if that happens, then you know, Dan Howard's super cycle theory probably has a lot of weight, and we could push right through this 2012, 2022 start of the year, and maybe even go into a extended bull cycle from that kind of money.
All right, let's jump back over to your site. Let's look at the miner difficulty ribbon.
Yeah, that one. I'm not getting much signal from
And
that.
there was a question earlier whether you have any data on miner revenue and whether you factored that into your analysis.
I do have the data. I'm just not interested in it right now. I just think people are just over trigger happy on the impact of miners. Yeah, like I covered that earlier. So the sell pressure is so tiny. The reality is exchanges sell more Bitcoin than miners right now, to the point where it's almost a joke. Like miners are strong in bear markets, not in bull markets. When the buying pressure is weak, whoever's selling has dominance. You know, sellers market. You know, well, the buyers market in a bear market, meaning the sellers have the dominance. Any addition of that sell pressure is going to freak the market out. But right now, we shrug that off. We had a compression here, right? So it's expanding here. It's actually bullish. I mean, if you were to look at this pullback, and if you know, if you're looking at price only, if you're a technical person, and maybe you're not even looking at fundamentals on derivative exchanges, you'd be freaking out. You'd be going, that's a pullback, that's a pullback. But if you're looking on chain from what long-term investors are doing, this is just crap. This is crap too. This pump here and up here is crap, and this pullback is crap. It's just speculator gains going up and going down. Fundamentally, investors are coming in, and miners are far from capitulating, which is what you tend to see in this compression zone. Yeah, so, and also something interesting is that I think I introduced the ribbon. I can't even remember when I introduced it. I think it was somewhere in this zone here. And do you see how beautiful this ribbon predicts everything? As soon as I put this out, everything's changed. Data symmetry gone. Data asymmetry gone. Everyone, it's just a little. It's just constantly compressing, expanding now. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe miners are using it. I don't know. It's completely changed the cycle. It's a much more efficient cycle right now. You used to get these signals that were like, you know, great. And then you publish them, and then of course everybody uses them. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't use the ribbon too much these days because of that. I'm seeing a lot of this sort of stuff moving. Glassnode do a good job of this as well. Difficulty ribbon compression. There you go. They've done it onto an oscillator. I've taken that and made an oscillator, so you can sort of see zones where it's dipping. When it dips, you should buy. That was the buy zone in that peak actually, but of course that peak is going to be looked back at as a buy zone if you're looking at very long term. This indicator is probably good for 3 months onwards out, not really your weekly swing trades or your certainly not anything in the hourly candles. So yeah.
All right, Willie, it's time to wrap this up. So we need to talk about future projections. So what do you see? And there is a big concern. It's like everybody and their mother, including yourself and myself,